What's going on, everyone? Dwayne here from NorCal Nerf Club, and today, glad to say I get to install this Worker 14 kilogram spring into my Orbit Blaster. One of them anyways. You may have already seen that I put a 10 kilogram spring from AK Blaster mod into one of these, and it worked out fine. It's very comfortable to fire, but really only got it up to about 110 feet per second with the Chaos rounds. Was able to get it up to right around 117 average, up to maximum, I think, about 124 with Proton rounds. So kind of okay, but I wanted to get a little bit more out of this. Now I have another one of these, so I am going to leave the 10 kilogram in that one, and this one's still got a stock spring in it. We're going to bust the shell open and get the spring in there and see what happens. Okay, there we go. Have the blaster completely open, and let's take a look at our spring that we're going to install here. This is a pretty nice spring, okay, and it is pretty beefy. It is pretty strong. We're putting a pretty kind of intense spring in here. It did come with the spring rest, which I am going to put in there. Hopefully that's not going to mess with us when it comes to compression and everything, and allow the spring to compress all the way. But just give a little bit of extra reinforcement back here in the back of the tube. I think that should work out fine, okay, if it'll fit over that. We'll see if it'll fit over that plunger rod, which we're about to find out, because let's go ahead and just take this out. Now, I like to keep everything in place, didn't I, before I put the safety on this? We won't worry about that now, but I like to keep everything in place on this, especially because it just keeps it easier when we're only taking the spring out, okay, which is really, really simple, you know. We'll take this out, take the screw out here. Oh, by the way, the other two Orbit Blasters that I took apart, all the screws were the same size, except for the top two that go up here in the reticle right here, and then the one that goes on to the slide mechanism right here, okay, for the loading. And this little piece right there that goes on top of that when you screw it back on. Those were the only ones, but I did find in this one a larger screw, a little bit longer, that went back in this corner back here, just in case you get one that's like that. The other two I had were different, but those are all the same size there. Yeah, we're going to take off the, go ahead and take off the plunger head. And it is a nice spring that's in here. This one, once again, averaged at 101 feet per second. Stock right out of the box, so that's real good. This one is going to be a whole lot more powerful with this 14 kilogram spring in there. Let's take a look. In comparison, yeah, you can just see it's a little bit thicker wire, just pretty much about the same frequency and just a little bit longer, which gives me a little bit of concern as far as compression, but that's a pretty low frequency, so we should have plenty of room. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put the spacer on here if we can get it on there. I think so. Yeah. We'll put the spacer there, then we'll get our spring on. That fits on very nicely. And then we'll go ahead and reinstall the plunger head. That is a beefy spring, okay? This is a good spring. Going to work out just fantastic for us in here, I think. We are, remember, getting into a little bit of uncharted territory here. I have only ever heard that, oh yeah, you know, a 14 kilogram Longshot spring, or just about any of the Longshot springs will fit in that. Well, sure they will. They'll fit, but let's see how it reacts with it. You know, that is a good, that's nice on there. I want to get it. See, yeah, we've got room there. This is looking really good so far. I want to get this lubed up. I am going to go ahead and pad the plunger head, but I'm liking what I'm seeing here so far. If I can get that in real nicely and make sure that seats, there we go. Even getting that to kind of seat down on there real good. Okay. Yeah, but I want to, like I said, I want to lube that up, and I want to make sure I can be able to compress that in and get that past. I should be able to. Okay. Don't want to get ahead of myself with the worries here, but I do have a little bit of concerns about this because, you know, I don't want this busted anything out on the inside of there. This is going to be a powerful spring, but I don't believe too powerful, not where it's going to break anything. A lot on any of these orbits, as you can see, is pretty strong. All the plastic, everything is really sturdy. This would be the part that I would probably have the most concern about, the little bit of the load going on that, the extra spring load that's going on to that. I'm going to go ahead and lube that up also, but that's the spot that I would say is the weak spot. You know, this is all really nice and sturdy here. You know, the whole project, this whole little project really reminds me of a Longshot anyways. I know that they had to take a lot of influence from a Longshot to make one of these orbits. There's some pretty good similarities. You know, I have a Orange ModWorks whole Longshot kit that I'm going to be installing into an old classic Longshot here very soon. And this is just similar. I could see a Longshot kit type thing being made for this. Yeah, no problem. That would just be pretty similar to anything that Orange ModWorks, Worker, any of the kits that are being made for Longshots. I could see a little bit of variation in, you know, metal plunger tube, you know, even, I don't know, that's a pretty thick, that's a pretty nice plunger rod, but, you know, whatever, maybe aftermarket plunger rod, plunger head, you know. I would like to see, personally, I wish I had another seal that I could put on there. Kind of wish for another O-ring to put on there, but just to make sure, a little bit tighter seal on this, but this seems fine. Let's go ahead and let's get some lube on this. Okay, real simple thing, you know, I always like to do it. We're going to lube this up. Actually, I should have done the plunger tube first. It kind of makes it easier, but I'm going to put a bunch in there. I want a nice seal on this. There we go. And then I like to just even it out with a paintbrush a little bit. It's not so goopy and in one spot. Just kind of get a nice coating of it all the way around there. And then, without getting that all over my screws, let's go ahead and get some into that plunger tube. Now, I'm not really worried even about the air restrictor and the plunger on this. Not as worried as I probably should be, but I think it's going to be fine. And I want to lube that up right towards the end here. Get a nice amount in there. Get that all properly lubed up. And then see if we're getting, make sure we're getting a good seal. I just feel like it could be a little bit better. Maybe with a different O-ring there, it could be a little bit better. But it's moving nice, and we're getting a seal there. Yeah, that looks good and everything. Now, let's see if I can't. Got to get this in exactly where it needs to be there. And let's see. I need to get that then, of course. Whoops, I don't really want that moving. Okay. I want that to make sure if I can get that to compress and then fit on the other side right there like that. And that'll give me some nice reinforcement. I'd have to put everything back in place like our little gear here and all that. But as far as that looks fine. That looks real good. And that's going to reinforce that nicely. I am not sure if that is fitting exactly like I want to. That's staying up. That makes me feel a little bit better about it. Let's go ahead and let's go button this up and everything and see what we've got. So there we are. It's all put together. I did have to take out that spring spacer, not use that after all. So if you're following along and Marty put in the spring spacer, sorry about that. We're just not going to use it. It was fitting in there kind of janky. You've seen that, and it interfering with how the plunger tube fits down in there. So yeah, I went ahead and got rid of that. We don't need it anyways. And I already had to test prime this just to make sure that that D prime button was staying in place and everything, and it catches fine. It catches right at the end of the spring load. So though that's a little bit different on it. Yeah, you got to really pull it back and make sure you pull back all the way and that it caught. But it catches and it fires pretty hard. I can imagine we're going to get it on the chronograph here in a second. Just a reminder on this blaster, when you're putting it back together, there's several things that have to be all lined up at once. Starting back here, you're going to have there's the spring in there, and that little catch is going to have to stay where it needs to be. The reticle even up here has to stay in there. It just goes in a nice little slot, but sometimes it gives you a little bit of problems when you're putting it back together. Same thing down here. There's a little tension spring down here, similar to the one that's in the middle of a Chronos down here in this area. That one, that thing right there, that has to stay exactly where it needs to be, or you're not going to be able to prime this. So what I did here is I put in 7 of the Chaos rounds and 7 Proton rounds in here. And we're going to test in comparison, see what we got on the chronograph, see how much of an improvement we made. This, just like the other one, one of these Chaos Orbit blasters that I did, it was stock at 101. So we're going to get it on the chronograph and see what it can do now. Now the prime on it, I noticed it's stiff and everything, but not too bad, not too shabby at all. I really like, what they've done here. This priming grip is pretty awesome. So I really like that, but we're going to see what kind of an improvement we've made here. 124.3, that's the numbers I like, okay? You want to get this nice and square up here. 142.3, that's pretty good. 125.2, oh, a little erratic on it, but 134.1, but still doing good. Now these are still the Chaos rounds. I'm not sure how square it was, but let's get up here. 125.2, this is the last of the Chaos rounds. 106.6, that one was a little odd. So let's see where their average is. Okay, so as you can see, we got an average of 124.2. Max was at 142.3, and a minimum of 106.6. That one was a little off. Not sure exactly why, if it hit the inside or just didn't quite line up there perfectly. But yeah, that's with the Chaos rounds. Now let's continue on with our test here, and this will be the Proton rounds. They tend to fly a bit faster than just about anything else. 147.6, 144.3, that is blasting through there. 141, 141.6. See, a little bit more consistent even out of the Proton rounds. That's kind of interesting. Oh, and have one. Sometimes the white ones kind of tend not want to drop down in there. And that was actually one of the blue ones, but there it goes. So I've got to give it a little nudge up here, but I just wanted to show that. Now it's dropped in there. Okay, and this, 155.1. That's pretty big. Do we got one more in there? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, this will be the last and final shot then. 143. So those are really good. You can see the Proton rounds just a little bit quicker. So we had the max of 155.1, the minimum of 106.6, something off there, and then average of 134 even. Pretty good. Okay, that's kind of like the ranges I like to stay in. Definitely below 150, like I've said before. I think a sweet spot for Rival is right between 125 and 135. So yeah, these are real nice, and I kind of want to check them out. Too bad it's dark out right now. I'd take the dart catcher outside and we do a little bit of range testing, but I'll have to do that and see how this responds and everything. Yeah, I had to go and do just a little bit of indoor range testing just to see if everything was flying straight at about 30 feet, which is really kind of like my area that I like to make contact with the enemy in. That's about the range I want to play in. it's firing just fine. Yeah, it's just doing beautifully at that. I'd like to get it out, see it about 50 feet, because some of the rounds they're coming out really, really straight. I really enjoy what this is doing here. Usually when you get, you know, rival above 140 to 150 around there, that can start getting a little bit iffy on your accuracy. Like I said, I like it to be right between like 125, 135. Seems to stay pretty consistent as far as your accuracy. But this one's doing just fine. I really enjoy that. I really like this X-Shot line. This is my third one of these blasters. I have one that's stock. I have one that has the 10 kilogram spring in it. Now I've got one that has a 14 kilogram spring in it that's operating very, very nicely. Really a hard hit, and you know, we added 40-some plus feet per second onto this blaster with just a simple spring upgrade. So yeah, it is doing really well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, though. I certainly did like making it for you guys. Maybe you can go down there and give me a thumbs up on this video. It'd be very much appreciated. You take care, and I will see you in my next one.